The trade deadline has come and gone, Chiefs Kingdom, and Kansas City made exactly 0 moves. Nothing for the Chiefs at the trade deadline. I think that's a huge disappointment on the part of Brett Veach. I think he really should have gone out and made an aggressive move. We're going to talk about that today, talk about the options that were available to us, what ended up happening to those guys, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Veach himself, his tenure in Kansas City, how he did today, and just how he's done overall. You're watching the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. My name is Jackson Durham. We always appreciate you spending your time with us, especially on such a disappointing trade deadline day as today for Kansas City Chiefs fans. Super exciting one across the league. Rest of the NFL was really having fun today. Kind of felt like that SpongeBob meme where Squidward is looking through the window at everybody else running around, or SpongeBob and Patrick running around in the front yard having a great time. That was Kansas City fans watching the Cowboys add a superstar defensive tackle at the cost of some draft capital, watching the Eagles go out and make a couple moves before the deadline. They went out and added Jaelan Phillips and Jair Alexander. Jaelan Phillips, guy that I thought we could have added. We're going to talk about him in a minute. A lot of trades that we saw today. Colts went out and got Sauce Gardner in an enormous blockbuster this morning. We didn't go out and do anything. Nothing to upgrade this 5-4 roster that has obvious needs that we've discussed over and over again on the defensive line, at the pass rush. We've struggled to get pressure all season long. It's been an enormous issue. It has cost us games. I was just talking about it in the video I made the other day. It's going to continue to cost you games unless you address this pass rush, unless you address your ability to go out and get pressure. And other teams did that. The Eagles did that with the Jaelan Phillips trade, cost them a 3rd-round draft pick. Bradley Chubb was an option. I think the cap would have been a little restrictive. He didn't move at all. I don't know if we even called about him, to be honest with you. Dre'Mont Jones, somebody that we talked about repeatedly, he moves today for a 5th-round pick to Baltimore. Keon White moved the other week, somebody that we had talked about for a swap of late rounders to the San Francisco 49ers. So the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Niners, all teams with needs at edge, they all go out and address them, and none of them gave up more than a 3rd-round draft pick to do that. Just want you to keep that in the back of your head as we go through. The cost to upgrade at edge was at most a 3rd-round draft pick at the deadline this year. That was what teams were giving up. Trey Hendrickson didn't move. That was never a real option. I think they wanted a 1st-round pick for him in Cincinnati. That wasn't an option for Kansas City. We talked about that in the past. That wasn't realistic. But of the realistic options that we could have acquired, none of them moved for more than a 3rd-round draft pick. So to everybody out there saying it would have been hugely negative for Kansas City to trade for some of these guys, I know I talked about Jaelan Phillips being a little bit too expensive, but I thought that was going to be a 2nd-round draft pick trade. I thought that was what you were going to have to give up to go out and get Jaelan Phillips, to rent him for 1 year. I would have done that for a 3rd-round draft pick. I don't know how many of you guys out there wouldn't have done that. Let me know in the comments. Would you have made the 3rd-round draft pick trade that the Eagles made for Jaelan Phillips? I'm very interested to hear. Type Y for yes if you would have done that. Type N for no if you were not in on that move. We're going to have a couple other weigh-ins on trades throughout this video as well. But here, so as soon as we got through the deadline, I actually tweeted out, I know it's coming, but Kansas City, we're going to get a report that the Chiefs were aggressive for Breece Hall, but that the price was ultimately too high, that they were firm on their desire to give up no more than a conditional 4th-round draft pick. And wouldn't you know it, that is exactly the report that came out later that day. And the 4th-round draft pick, that comes, if you didn't hear, sorry, I should back up a little bit, from the Nate Taylor report early this morning. He said the Chiefs are willing to go as high as a 4th-round draft pick that conditionally can turn into a 3rd-round draft pick in any trade. So that was Veach's kind of across-the-board principle. For any trade that he was going to make today, we're maxing out at a conditional 4th-round draft pick. And like we talked about, the maximum for any trade that I think we could have made was a 3rd-round draft pick. So a couple guys off the board, but there were still options. We didn't get to any of those options, even at that price tag. But here's where it becomes even more blood-boiling, in my opinion. Connor Hughes, on the podcast, the Jets Final Drive podcast, he says, the Chiefs offered a 4th-round draft pick for Breece Hall. The Jets declined. they were looking for a third. He also said a team offered a second for Jermaine Johnson, but the Jets wanted a little more. I'm fine with us not giving up a second to go get Jermaine Johnson, or definitely didn't want to give up a first to go get Jermaine Johnson. That trade I'm fine with us not making. But it does boil my blood. It does cause steam to come out of my ears when I hear that it was possible for us to go out and acquire Breece Hall at the cost of just a third-round draft pick. Guys, I'm speechless. What are we doing? That should have been done the minute New York said the cost is a third. We should have said, okay, we're fine doing that. Thank you very much. We'll take Breece Hall. You take the third-round draft pick. Because it is a third-round draft pick. What are you drafting in the third? You'd be lucky to get half of Breece Hall with your average third-round draft pick. Absolutely boneheaded, in my opinion, that you wouldn't go out and make that move. And to those that say you're renting Breece Hall for 1 year, I'm fine with that if it gets us a Super Bowl ring. At the cost of a third-round draft pick, hell yeah. I'll make that trade every day that ends in Y and any day that doesn't. That's a great trade, in my opinion. Third-round draft pick to increase your shot at a Super Bowl ring, I think everybody should want to do that. We saw the Rams do that a couple of years ago. We saw the Rams employ their F them pick strategy to brilliant success. And here we are, a few years later, with that historical example, not too far in the rearview mirror, holding on to draft picks for dear life, and not even premium ones. Holding on to a third-round draft pick for dear life. It's just too conservative. You have Patrick Mahomes right now. He's playing the best football of his career at age 30, in my opinion. Considering what's been around him this season, considering the guys that have missed time, considering the injury situation on the offensive line, I think you can absolutely make the argument that maybe outside of his first season as a starter, Mahomes is playing some of the best ball we've ever seen as he continues to age like fine wine, and we continue to be conservative in roster building around him. That's unacceptable, in my opinion. It absolutely is unacceptable that we are not maximizing the window. It is just outright inexcusable that we didn't get a move done. And again, to the crowd out there, and I've been hearing from you in the comments on the short I made, which reminds me, make sure you guys subscribe. I had a short out basically iterating some of my thoughts on this, just quick thoughts, a couple hours ago. I can get shorts out way faster than I can get long form VODs out, but you guys need to be subscribed with notifications on to see those, to get those notifications. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you ring that bell so you don't miss any Kansas City Chiefs news this football season, and so you don't miss any of the shorts that I do. That's where I'm going to be coming at you with the quickest, most up-to-date Kansas City Chiefs news, because it just takes way longer to make one of these long-form videos. I got to sit down and I got to yap at you guys for a little while. Quick yap on the shorts, so that's always going to be where the fastest news is coming in, so make sure you got notifications on so you don't miss any of those. But to the crowd out there saying we can't afford to make trades, you're wrong. I'm telling you, you're wrong. And I've already gone over and proved how wrong you were with just the other trades that were made. We could have afforded from a draft pick perspective. We absolutely could have. We've got third-round draft picks to give up. We've got fourth-round draft picks to give up. We've got fifth-round draft picks to give up. We're the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to be drafting at the end of every round anyway. Why? I don't understand the value on these draft picks. Our third-round draft picks are fundamentally fourth-round draft picks. Our first-round draft picks are fundamentally second-round draft picks. And our second-round draft picks are fundamentally thirds. That's how you got to look at it at the end of the day. We're picking at the end of every round. You should have a lower value on draft picks than basically any other team in the NFL, in my opinion. And cap space would not have gone over on any of the deals that we've discussed except for Bradley Chubb. The Chiefs may be millions and millions over next season, but I think you could have done extensions with Breece and Dre'Mont Jones too if they'd come in and played well, because look, there are ways to restructure that cap. Brett Veach, who we're going to talk about a little bit in a minute, has been really good at that throughout his career. That's been one of the biggest successes he's had with Kansas City, is structuring our cap well. I think we're going to release Jaelan Taylor. That's going to save us north of $20 million, and there are a lot of restructures that we can do to save even more money beyond that. And we'll get into more discussion around Brett Veach as a GM. But before we do, speaking of saving money, I got to tell you guys about Omaha Steaks. Tonight, my fiance, Kylie, She worked today all day at the office, had a rough day. She sends me a text, "What's on the menu for dinner tonight? You're up on dinner." And I panic immediately. It's the trade deadline today at work. I've been busy. But you know what I got in the freezer? I've got Omaha Steaks ready to go, so I throw them on the grill. It is a nice and easy dinner. We are both going to be well fed, enjoying that as soon as I'm done with this video because your boy is starving. And Omaha Steaks is the official sponsor of tailgating. From legendary burgers to mouthwatering steaks, deli-style franks, and so much more, you'll elevate your next game day get-together with America's original butcher. Omaha Steaks' legendary flavor is served in stadiums and homes like mine across the country. I've got an exclusive deal just for our Chiefs Report viewers. By the way, too, guys, the Kingdom is going to get an extra $35 off with promo code Chiefs. This is where that saving money discussion comes in because the value we get with Omaha Steaks is already fantastic. And then you're going to save an extra $35 when you use that promo code Chiefs. That's exclusive just for viewers of this channel, just for members of the Kansas City Chiefs fandom, members of the Kingdom. So make game day delicious, guys, with the official sponsor of tailgating. Visit omahasteaks.com and get $35 off with promo code Chiefs at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com and promo code Chiefs at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. And if you do go check out Omaha Steaks, guys, which we always appreciate them sponsoring the videos, make sure you use promo code Chiefs because it really does support the channel. 100% appreciate Omaha Steaks. Now let's ask a question. Should the Kansas City Chiefs fire general manager Brett Veach? This is something I've heard discussed a lot on Twitter today. I know some of it just comes from a place of frustration. I know some of it just comes from venting after a long day of wanting to see a trade and not seeing one get done. But let's have a serious discussion about this. Has Brett Veach been a net positive or a net negative for the Kansas City Chiefs? I think it's a discussion that maybe is more worth having than a lot of Chiefs fans would surface level admit to themselves. I know it sounds on the face of it ridiculous. It sounds reactionary and unfair. Based off of one day in which Brett Veach was not at the top of his game, why would we be discussing firing him? But I don't think this is a one-day thing. Let's go through Brett's resume as GM, if you will. He takes over as Chiefs general manager in July of 2017, which is important because in 2017, in April, the Chiefs make a very great draft selection, which we're also going to attribute to Brett Veach. Some people don't because he wasn't technically the GM, but Patrick Mahomes is absolutely the product of Brett Veach as general manager. So that's a huge plus in his direction in terms of draft success. And it's not the only big draft hit that he's had. He's also got Creed Humphrey. He's got Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, Rashee Rice, Leo Chenal, Trent McDuffie. All of these guys have turned into really solid players. A lot of them come after even the third round. Humphrey, Bolton, and McDuffie, obviously all second-round picks. But Trey Smith, and Rashee Rice as well. But Trey Smith, he was a sixth-round pick. Leo Chenal was a third-round pick. But on the drafting front, while we've had some really positive, great picks that have helped Kansas City, turned into key pieces of the dynasty, we've also had some major misses in the early rounds. We've also had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Sky Moore, Breland Sparks, Mecole Hardman. All of these are also picks on the record of Brett Veach. And I think it gets worse when you look at the free agent acquisition. So just this past season, Christian Fulton and Jerry Tillery, both of those have been big misses. Tillery, not a very expensive miss, but Christian Fulton, you're paying $10 million to be a healthy scratch on a consistent basis. That guy's played 12 snaps as a Kansas City Chief. And I know he's dealt with injuries, but a lot of that is not injury related. It is because he is not a good scheme fit for this defense. And that is a consistent theme in Brett Veach is acquisitions. It feels like there's not great communication between him and Steve Spagnuolo about what you want in defensive players. I think we saw that with Josh Uche a couple of years ago, which is another trade that Veach made. And I think we see this again with Christian Fulton. Other notable examples, Jawan Taylor, been overpaid and penalty prone. Gave him $20 million a year back in 2023. Don't think that deal worked out great for us. He's been solid at times, decent protector, especially over the last couple of weeks when he's been healthy. He's been, I think, the best version of Jawan Taylor at times. But overall, has he been worth $20 million annual? Absolutely not. That was a bad contract. Charles Omenihu, overpaid rotational edge. Signed him the same year for $8 million a year. He's not playing well, but he's not playing that much. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, year prior, massive overpay. You release him at the end of the same season. Joe Thuney, that's a big win for him. Big move in the right direction. That was a great signing, huge piece of the Chiefs dynasty over the next few years. But then you also got Sammy Watkins in 2018. Another overpaid receiver. $48 million contract over 3 years for Sammy Watkins. Terrible during the duration of it. Veach, in many ways, I think it's easy to make the argument that he has coasted off of Patrick Mahomes, off of the draft pick of Patrick Mahomes, and off of the pieces that were in place prior. Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones. But I also think that's a little bit unfair because that doesn't recognize some of the great draft success that he has had, some of the really good picks that he's made, some of the solid free agent signings that he's made. I think at the end of the day, Veach is somewhere in the middle. He's not as great as a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans would like to crack him up to be, as the resume maybe cracks him up to be in terms of just Super Bowl championships. He's won a number of them. But is he really the driver of it? I don't think you could say Veach has been the engine. I think you could say Veach has absolutely been a positive contributor in some ways, but I think he's been a negative contributor in a number of ways as well. But I don't think you could say his bad calls outweigh his good ones because, let's be honest with ourselves, guys. The one he got in 2017, the one at the beginning of his career, the one's a huge reason why he got his job to begin with in some ways, Mahomes, man. That draft pick, that roll of the dice, that gamble has been huge for Kansas City. And even though he wasn't technically the GM yet, he was the head of player personnel, he drove that gamble in a lot of ways. It's been recognized that he was a huge part of driving that decision. So I think you got to give him credit for that. And I think that one win will for a long time outweigh other mistakes. And I think he's got other wins on his record. I don't think you should fire Brett Veach off of one day in which he didn't make a move at the deadline. Let's be 100% clear about what I'm saying here. But I do think it's worth considering what is Brett Veach's role in the Kansas City Chiefs, positive or negative. Where has his total contribution ultimately fallen? I want to hear from you guys on this one. What do you think of Brett Veach? Do you think he's been a positive to Kansas City over the last couple of years? Do you think he's been a negative to Kansas City over the last couple of years? Let me know in the comments. Type P for positive, type N for negative, and we are going to see you guys tomorrow for another Kansas City Chiefs video. Let's go Kansas City Chiefs, and I will see you guys then.